Yes, it is me again, liking things. And just like any villain has an origin story, I want to tell you guys how I became Solo Date Ché. Now, because I'm very awkward in front of the camera, I'm also going to do my monthly derma planning and get my eyebrows snatched. Now, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. It was challenging because I was such a shy person. So stay tuned so you can find out how I became Solo Date Ché. So before I start anything, I'm going to need these two things as well as a tweezer. And don't judge me, but I use a little mirror. So first I'm going to use coconut oil because I see that it helps me, especially with my skin, so that I don't break out. Now this one that I use is from, I don't know how to say that, Lemke. And it's the coconut oil, but the organic virgin one. It does have a very strong coconut smell. So if you're not a coconut lover, there is one that is odorless. So don't judge me. This is the small mirror that I use. This is also the same mirror that I use for doing my makeup. I know I need to get a new one. Okay, so let's get started while I put on my coconut for my derma planning. So just a little backstory. Growing up, I was always the quiet child. Like, I was not very well-knowledged when it comes to boys. So when I started doing solo dates, it was something I definitely did for myself. It was never about social media. And we all know that TikTok really blew up when it was, you know, during COVID. And to me, it was always just a dancing app. And I never really worried about it, okay? So how I actually got into doing TikTok is after I started doing like solo dates and going out, because I would only basically post videos for whoever was on my WhatsApp. And I'm not usually not a very social person. So I didn't have that many followers. I didn't have that many contacts on WhatsApp. And I was like, okay, maybe I should actually invest some time in, you know, making videos, seeing as I'm always posting on my status. That's how it originally started with me doing the content, you know. Now, the important part was what drove me to actually do solo dates, okay? Now, how it started was, it was during COVID, right? Remember, in COVID, we still had what they call is a curfew. And as much as I, at the time, was an essential worker, there was still a curfew, and the curfew was for everybody. But this one, I think this is the time, it was around about, if not 2020, 2021, early 2021, I believe, right? And we still had a curfew, so majority of the restaurants were open. However, they were only open until like 7 p.m, okay? So I had this friend that I knew who was very wealthy and well off, and he was in town and he invited me out for supper. But because at this point I'd never been on a date, I'm not gonna lie to you, like a proper date where, you know, the guy pays and you go out and you dress up and all of that. At this point I'd never even owned foundation, okay? So I was very much beside myself and I rushed home from work. I went there, and because I wanted to, and I think he invited me over to, I think it was Melrose Arc, okay? So by the time I got to Melrose Arc, it was already 7 o'clock, and the curfew had already closed, had already passed, and it was over. Obviously, there was not going to be any date, and this made me realize how uncomfortable I actually am, because I come from the ghetto, basically. I come from a small community called Eldorado Park. And we're not exposed to, as much as I am well-learned and all of those things, we are not generally exposed to the high life or the fancy life or the 3-course meals or, you know, that type of lifestyle. I myself hadn't been acquainted with it, and in my mind it was always like, oh, these places are for wealthy people, this is for people with money and all of that. And I had this preconception that I wouldn't fit in because I didn't dress like how they dressed. I didn't behave like how they behaved. Even though I'm well-mannered and all of those things, it didn't really make that much of a difference, because internally I felt like I didn't deserve to be in those places, because I would essentially feel like I don't fit. I don't know if that makes sense. So, and this was an experience I told myself. After that, I sat in the car. I think I cried a little, don't judge. But I was like, I never want to experience this again. I never want to be in a position where, like, when I go out, a man must make me feel like they've shown me the world, I never wanted to be in a position where somebody gave me the experiences in life that they can hold against me. You know what I mean? Now, that stems from childhood trauma, but let's not go there. This is about Solo Date Ché, okay? Now, let's get started. So, what essentially happened was, from that date, well, obviously the date never took place because of the fact that I missed the whole curfew, and we ended up never rescheduling, and I don't think I've ever seen him after that, right? But that was the changing point for me, because I was like, no, man, I need to do better for myself, and I need to put myself in a position where I feel personally empowered, And that's where essentially the whole journey of Solo Date started, because I said to myself that I want to be able to love. I want to be able to be experienced to a point where if I ever go out with friends, or if I ever go on a date, like, I'm not going to feel like I'm out of place. So I'm going to experience the 3-course meals. I'm going to go for the 5-course meals. I'm going to go to these fancy restaurants. I'm going to go to Sandton and to Maro's Ark and to Rosebank, because all of those places I had seen as places that I wouldn't necessarily fit in at the time, obviously. Being inexperienced and, like I said, not having gone on those dates and not having had the opportunity to frequent those places. I had my own little preconception about what it was. So essentially how I started doing the dates, I started off small, I love bargains. That's one thing for sure. And I used to love using these, I don't know if you remember Groupon. Groupon was like a thing. So you would like buy these vouchers where you can like have meals and all of this. Is before like Hyperly and all of those places and FOMO came into place. And I would like buy these vouchers. And essentially in the beginning, I tried like going out with like friends just to be better acquainted with like places. But then eventually I said to myself, you know what? Seeing as I'm paying for these, because you saw them as experiments, right? So I was like, oh, well, seeing as I'm paying for most of the dates because I'm buying the vouchers, why don't I just rather try and explore and go out on my own, So that's when I decided that, okay, because I'm a very, like, when people meet me, they don't generally believe that I am a shy person, because my job in my personal capacity doesn't allow for me to be a shy person, So, but internally, in my heart of hearts, I still believe that I am a shy person. And I needed to get out of that, Ooh, I don't want to speak in there just now. Ooh, my goodness. I don't know what made me think that this would be a good idea to talk and to tell you guys. Seeing as I'll be moving my mouth. I never expected it. Okay. So essentially, what I did was I decided to start small. And I used to, at the time I was working in Fourways, right? So one thing I love about Fourways is that there's so many places to explore, and beautiful places, So I started teaching myself how to do solo dates, right? And it's a gradual thing, I promise you. And on top of this, remember, I now started doing content. Meaning that not only am I exposing myself because I'm feeling exposed rather, going or self-conscious, going out and doing a solo date, but now I'm also recording the solo date. And at this time, people were used to they weren't really used to content creators, how they are used to it now, right? So I started on this journey, and like 5 things that I learned with regards to going on solo dates is always make sure that the seat that you're choosing is not directly in front of people, so that you don't feel like subconscious and that people are watching you. Number 2, I would suggest when you start going out on solo dates, don't go during the weekend or on a payday weekend, because it's going to be full. People are going to be with family and friends and couples and all of those things, and you're going to feel so awkward. 3, I would say, is take something with to distract you, whether that be a book, whether that be headphones, maybe you can watch a movie, you know. Number 4 is always make sure that you go out and you dress up, because when you look good, you feel good and you do good. So you automatically have that additional confidence to be able to slay that solo date. And number 5 is enjoy yourself. Get something that you would actually like. And that's where, with me, the solo date thing started, and liking things, because I would go out and try dishes I've never had. Before this, I didn't even know what is a carpaccio, to be honest with you. And now I feel like I'm a little bit more experienced. You know what I mean? So go and explore, try things that you've never tried before, because those things will contribute to the experience and building the confidence, you know? Anyway, so I started going on these little dates, whether it be maybe after work, I would pop into some of the places there in Fourways. And then, because of now, I started getting more frequent with it. I started making more content, you know. I don't think at this stage my page was like really growing. I was just posting merely for the fun of it, not because I wanted followers or whatever. That was never my intention. And the weird part is that when I started making content also, like, I never wanted to show my face. I wanted it to be a faceless channel, because in my mind, I'm still a shy person, you know. And I never even did voiceover in the beginning. I think at some point I even used Snapchat, like before I started becoming like well acquainted with my camera. But I never even used to do voice notes. I used to remember the voiceover thingy that TikTok does. That's what I used to do. Because in my mind, I was like, you know, this is so awkward already. I'm putting myself out there with regards to like making the content, going on the solo dates. Now I need to still put my voice in it, put my face in it. Like, no, it was just a bit too overwhelming for me at that specific time. Now, I started becoming a little bit more adventurous, because as the years gone on, this is maybe like 2022, 2023, I started buying my first foundation, and I learned how to like do home makeup and all of those things, which is, as a child, I was never allowed to wear makeup. Only like your eyeliner and mascara or lipstick or whatever, but I was never allowed to like use foundation and stuff. So imagine being, I'm going to expose my age, but like 30 something. Well, I was probably like 29, 30. And now only buying my first foundation, you know. But it was another step to not just the solo day journey, but like stepping into a new era of who I wanted to be. You know what I mean? And not having somebody like basically dictate my life, like what I can do and what I can't do and what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. Like, it just allowed for me to walk into and to embrace this new Ché, if I can put it that way. So the more I would go out, the more I decided that, okay, let's start doing videos, you know. And then at this point, I think at some time, like voiceover started becoming a little bit more popular, and I basically forced myself to learn how to do, I'm probably doing this thing wrong, please don't judge me. I probably learned how to do that. And essentially, I started becoming a little bit more confident. Every single time I would go out, I would build a little bit more confidence. I would feel a little bit more better. I would feel more comfortable in my environment, taking videos. But I must say, when I would go to places like Sandton or like, you know, places like Rosebank, where I would still feel uncomfortable because I mean, like, these people are coming here for supper and here I am taking videos, you know? So I was a little subconscious because I was like, these people can see I don't fit here. Like, I don't fit in. But if, like, now, you can't tell me anything. Because now I walk into a place and I own that space, you know? And I feel like I've earned, not that I've earned the right to do so, but I've earned my space in this environment. Not environment. What am I saying? But you know what I mean? Like, I've earned my badges, you know? And I think I've grown to be a little bit more confident. And funny enough, solo dates are great, you know, but I rather prefer going out and maybe taking a friend with now, having the conversation with them, you know, speaking to them and, you know, getting to enjoy the moment more. The solo dates, I think, essentially were just there to help build my confidence, to help me realize that I can get out of my shell and that there's so much that I have to offer and that I do belong, you know, whether it be in Rosebank, in Sandton, it doesn't matter where I am. The fact that who I am is enough. And that is the most important thing for me, was the fact that I've loved in a sense where I've loved, you know, I've given myself the opportunity. I've had the experiences. I've gone to the places. Yes, I haven't experienced everything. Yes, I haven't gone and done the stuff that's on my wish list or whatever the case may be. But I've loved, you know. I've given myself an opportunity to learn what I like, what I don't like, and basically to learn who I am. So that is definitely one thing that I'm so grateful for, is that if it was not for Solo Date Ché, if it was not for having that experience where, you know, I was sitting in the car crying because I messed up a date because of my own nerves, I would never essentially have gotten to where I am currently, you know. So this is probably the first long video that I've ever done. And if you've watched until this far, thank you so much. So I'm going to finish demo planning my face because I don't want to cut myself with this thing. But thank you so much for watching. And I hope that if you are not subscribed, that you do subscribe. If you have any questions for me with regards to solo dates, or if you have any other things that you want to know, please make sure to leave a comment and subscribe. And I will see you next time.